Good afternoon, everybody. We will call this meeting of the Council to order for our January 28th meeting. I see we've got a fine-looking crowd of people here today. We're not used to seeing such large turnouts, are we, guys? As a general rule. Welcome, everybody. The first thing that we do, obviously, is to adopt the agenda as presented. I'll accept the motion. Councillor Stoyles, moved by Councillor Stoyles, seconded by Councillor Ledwell. Are there any additions to the agenda as it now sits before you, other than there is one proclamation that I'm going to be bringing up here, which you may or may not have a copy of. It wasn't actually in the Dropbox, and it deals with White Cane Week. Anything else to add? Hearing none, call it. All in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. Go back then now to the Public Council meeting of January the 14th. I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented. Moved by Deputy Mayor Locke, seconded by Councillor Aker. Are there any errors or omissions in the minutes of January 14th? None. Hearing none, call the question. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. Business arising from the minutes of January 14th, please refer to agenda item number if there is any. Business arising. Going once. Going twice. All right, no business arising. We will move on the agenda then. Council, we have two things to do today. One is a proclamation and one is a presentation. And the first thing we're going to do is read a proclamation into the record. We have here with us today Nadine Green. Where are you, Nadine? Wave at me. There you go. She's down there. We're going to get her. I think Nadine is going to come up here with me. Are you not? And have a few words to say to everybody? All right. If we could get you to do that, we will read the proclamation into the record, and then we'll get you. You might as well come on up here with me. Yep. I don't know whether what Nadine is proving here is that she knows exactly what she's doing. Okay, Nadine, come over right this way now, next to me, right here, okay? All right, I'm going to read this into the record. It reads as follows. Whereas the first week of February 2014 is recognized as White Cane Week, and whereas White Cane Week aims to remind all Canadians that the traditional white cane is a symbol of independence, not dependence, and that a lack of sight is not a lack of vision. Love that. And whereas this is the 66th year that this public awareness program has taken place in Canada and reflects the changing situations of people who are blind and visually impaired. And whereas White Cane Week is a program of the Canadian Council of the Blind, which has acted as the voice of the blind for over 60 years. And whereas the Canadian Council of the Blind asks that service providers remove barriers that limit the fullness of life for our fellow blind and visually impaired citizens. Therefore, I, Randy Sims, Mayor of the City of Mount Pearl, do hereby proclaim the week of February 2nd to 8th, 2014 as White Cane Week here in the City of Mount Pearl. And with that, I will affix my signature. And Nadine, I'm going to invite you to feel free to speak to Council about any plans you have for the week.
Okay, well, basically, White Cane Week is a Canadian Council of the Blind initiative that supports ability, not disability. And the white cane itself is actually a internationally accepted symbol of independence for blind people. And during White Cane Week, there's a national network of events that highlights the equal capabilities and talents of blind people. And there's going to be some local events, which include bowling and cribbage with the St. John's Lions Club, and a casino day with the students of Academy Canada. And the sighted people are welcome to come out and support the blind community and find information on how they could get involved. And if you would like more information on our local events or the local CCB chapter, you could email us at ccbnfld@gmail.com, or you could follow us on Facebook at CCB Eastern NL Chapter.
Nadine, I want to thank you very much for coming in to talk to us. Any member of council with anything to address? pass on our congratulations to you and to the Canadian Council of the Blind. Now, you're with the E.A. Baker Club.
That's right, yeah.
Tell me, what's the E.A. Baker Club? I'm not familiar with it.
It's the chapter for basically around the St. John's area, and we kind of take in Clarenville and other areas.
Okay.
And,
So this is kind of like the local chapter.
Yeah.
For the Canadian Council of the Blind, and
Yes.
it's called, and it's named after, I'm assuming, a Mr. or Miss Baker.
Yes.
Okay, well, we want to offer our heartfelt congratulations and good luck with the week of February 2nd to the 8th. If there's anything that the city can do to help you promote your cause and advance the realities of opportunities out there for the visually impaired and the blind, know that the City Council here has your back. We support you in all of these endeavors and wish you the very best of luck with your week.
Thank you very much.
And thank you very much. Did we get the picture, guys?
Yes, I think we did, yeah.
Good luck with your week.
Thank you.
Be careful on the side. Canadians live with vision challenges. Yeah, vision loss. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much again, Nadine, for that. We appreciate it. And you do not have to suffer through this entire council meeting. We let people who sign proclamations run away after they've done that, if they want to. We are going to, the second thing is a presentation to council today. This is very much, I think it's fair to say, a tradition, goes on every year, particularly the council meeting before Frosty Festival. We have both the chair, the vice chair, I'm going to call it the I don't know, what do we call you, Roy? The manager of public relations, communications, and sleight of hand and general corporate deception is what it's known as in other areas. We want to welcome all three of you. We have, of course, Keith White, who's the vice chair here. Mike Mooney is the chair. And Mike, I understand you want to talk to us a little bit today about Frosty Festival, so I'm going to invite you up to tell us about all the great parties, activities, fun, and excitement that's going to happen here as part of Frosty, and hopefully we're not going to have a major snowstorm, a major power outage, a major blizzard. None of that's going to happen during Frosty.
That's right.
We're going to have all of it is what it's going to be.
Yeah, we might. 3 out of the last 5 years we had a snowstorm in the middle of the Frosty Festival.
We actually did, didn't we?
We do, yeah. But we went ahead with the events. They went ahead. On behalf of the Frosty Festival, to the mayor and council, city, and guests here today, on the 23rd we announced the 32nd Frosty Festival, which was last Thursday, with a press release and a press conference. Well attended, certainly from the community. Our booklet, there were 11,000 of these booklets printed and circulated in the city of Mount Pearl, primarily through the Go Bag. So many, if not all, of our residents now have a copy of the festival. And this book encompasses the story of the festival. It tells of all the events, which I'll talk about a little bit now in a moment, but it's reflective of community living in the city of Mount Pearl. There are over 60 events in this year's festival. Think about that, 60 events over a 10-day period, starting on the 6th. There are 30 organizations, 28 of which are community groups from the community of Mount Pearl, from the city of Mount Pearl, who participate as volunteers and organizers primarily of the events. There are over 30 sponsors, both major and gold, silver, and bronze, that gladly come on every year to support this as a worthwhile venture for our community. We have events that we hope and have proven in the past to attract young and old alike. We certainly try to cross the full demographic of our citizens in the city of Mount Pearl. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention at this time the significant support that we get from the city of Mount Pearl, demonstrated this year of the signing of a memorandum of understanding that will certainly help the festival over the next 3 years. So on behalf of the festival, I want to take this moment, Randy, to thank you as mayor and council for the significant work that went into the MOU in conjunction with the Frosty Board and the approval. And I want to acknowledge the exceptional support from Krista Tucker and from Jason Collins for making that possible on behalf of the city. We certainly could not have a festival of this nature with all the organizations and volunteers, but we also clearly recognize what the commitment of the city is to our activities and the events. And as you know, a lot of our major events take place in our schools and our churches, but also in the Reed Center and the Glacier, which are significant resources that one cannot take for granted. We are very fortunate to have a festival of this nature available to us. Tickets went on sale on Saturday. Ticket sales are strong. We are advertising through our major sponsors, both on VOCM and through the Telegram. The Glacier is the prime location for ticket sales. The hours are shown in the booklet. They are weekday evenings from 6 to 8, and also Saturdays and Sundays from 11 to 3, and that is supported by the Glacier and the Glacier staff as well. We certainly have extended our program media to include Facebook, a new website developed this year, and we're using Twitter as well to get as much information as we can to the community, and the entire booklet is online at www.frostyfestival.ca. So for those that don't have the booklet, we are certainly advertising the website every way possible. And our website, interesting enough, has seen well over 2,000 or 3,000 visits, and our Facebook site has tripled since our announcement on Thursday of the festival officially happening.
That's good.
Yeah, so we don't underestimate the power of the digital media, social media. I also wanted to take the time to mention, besides the true and tested events that are very important to the festival, we've added some new events this year, not the least of which is a Frosty Presents on Saturday, the first Saturday of the festival, the 8th, which will be 3 bands, Irish music, compliments of the Master of Spain, Chicana, and the Dardanelles. We've also, and we're seeing a good response to that through ticket sales. We've also added a Frosty After Dark magic and hypnosis show during the festival, and we've also added an international food event at the Reed Center on the first Sunday, which we're also seeing very high interest in, and we're looking excited. 21 countries will be represented at that event, and they will be here in the city of Mount Pearl. And through our resources, we're able to transport them into Mount Pearl for that event, so they can also bring a number of people from the international community to our city. So we're very proud of that. So without taking too much other time, I do want to again say that this is a significant endeavor. It's only made possible through the support of the city, the sponsors, our strong volunteer commitment in our community, and the general public who react each year very positively, both young and old alike, to come out to these events. So again, thank you for the opportunity, and let's all look forward and hopefully see as many people as we can at the various events during the festival.
Thank you, sir, very much. And on behalf of council, obviously all of this happens because of volunteers, quite frankly. It doesn't happen unless we've got that, and literally it is an army of volunteers when you think of all of the organizations out there, the nonprofit groups that actually engage in the process of organizing all of these events. So we always said, and I said it at the news conference every year, we say the next one is going to be the best one ever. We got to believe that this one is going to be the best one ever. We're certainly looking forward to it. I know you've made changes to the opening ceremonies, and with the extravaganza that's going to happen on Friday night, which is a fantastic show that you get in for a can of beans. I mean, really. Right, a non-perishable food item you bring, and you get 2.5 hours of probably the highest quality entertainment that you're going to find anywhere. There is a rather new event. I don't know how I feel about this one. What do you think of moose stew? They're going to have they're going to have on day 5, on Monday, day 5, they're going to do a moose stew. And for the kiddies who don't like moose stew, there's going to be chicken nuggets. Now, how do I convince them I'm a kid? Maybe I order both. I'm not sure, but it's going to be a fabulous, fabulous carnival again this year, sir. Thank you to you and to everybody. I'm looking forward to when it's over being able to say that it truly was the best one ever. We really appreciate the work you're doing.
And again, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, guys. Good luck for the carnival. Okay. This thing keeps shutting off every now and again. All right, that concludes proclamations and presentations for the day. We have no correspondence to table with council this afternoon, so we'll move on into committee reports. Now, I know we have a large group of people here in the room today that are here for one specific item only, and that's to deal with the Municipal Avenue rezoning and amendment. So what we're going to do is move some things up with the leave of council so that we can address this early and you don't have to wait and wade through all of the routine stuff of council, other than the approval of minutes, which is required by us, and the opening of proclamations, standard procedure at every council meeting, which is why we did that ahead of this particular item here. So the first thing I want to do today with the leave of council is I'm going to call on Infrastructure and Public Works. Councillor Walsh, in that committee report, has an item to address that relates to this Municipal Avenue piece. And then I'm going to call upon, at the end of your report, John, I'm going to ask Councillor Ledwell to then begin his report. And I know that in your report this is listed as, I believe, item 3. I'm going to ask you to move it up to item 1, okay, so that we can deal with it here now. So
okay. Thank you, Your Worship.
Good with all that? Councillor Walsh.
I'm good with that. Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. I just want to. There are a couple of other things in the report that I'll dispense of very, very quickly.
Sure.
The last time I gave a winter report, snow clearing and update on all that, it was substantially different than what I'm going to give today. The last couple of weeks we've been into relatively mild weather, the kind of weather with freezes and thaws and rain and pretty much everything else that you can imagine in between, but not excessive amounts of snow like the period before. I think it was, Your Worship, from about Boxing Day to the 4th or 5th of January, I think we had been running 24/7 operations, and of course we haven't had the need to do that since, thankfully. So we've got a little bit of a reprieve in the weather. So I'll leave that. The only other thing I want to mention before I come back to the issue relating to StormSore was the dog park. We've had some correspondence by email from residents, regular users of the dog park, which is great to see, saying that they thought that there was a bit of a change in operations in the dog park at this current location compared to the previous location. In fact, that's really not the case at all. What we've done, we've posted signage that says the dog park is open for use at your own risk, but we will not be clearing the dog park. We keep the two main gates of the dog park closed, and we do clear the lot as we get an opportunity to clear it. Obviously, it's not a high priority, but we do use the entrance to that lot as one of our snow dump areas. So the actual entrance is cleared fairly routinely anyway. So I just want to highlight that because to the dog owners and the users of the park, and there are many, that's an absolutely gorgeous facility for 9 months of the year. It's a gorgeous facility 12 months of the year, but it doesn't have the exact same access during the 12-month period during winter conditions. So I just wanted to highlight that as well. You referenced the stormwater management report. I just want to back up a little bit, Your Worship. Back in 2006-2007, we did, as a council and our staff, notice that we were getting some surcharge downstream in the sanitary sewer. The sanitary sewer system that was generally referred to as the Municipal Avenue trunk sewer. We investigated that, and we identified a number of homes that had some pumps that were actually directly tied into not the storm sewer, but the sanitary sewer system. We've taken some corrective action on places like Norma's Avenue and the lower part of Sunrise Avenue. But we know that there are many, many other situations of houses being attached to the sanitary sewer with sub-pumps. So I think it was on the 20th of January, Mr. Antle, that we actually commissioned another study through our engineering consultants, Bay New Plan, to try to systematically identify, first of all, the houses, the number of houses and the location of houses that had some pumps that were tied, again, not into the storm sewer, but directly into the sanitary sewer. Because what that does, obviously, during peak rain events, it causes some surcharging in the sanitary sewer, or it can. And we've had situations where that has happened. Now, our engineering consultants tell us that just one house that has a sump pump that's directing water into the sanitary sewer is the equivalent of flows of 10 houses with normal sanitary flows. And that's a known engineering fact. We've already identified 32 houses in the Sunrise Avenue area that have not been corrected, that are actually tied into the sanitary sewer system. And in the study of 150 out of 390 houses that are already completed by our engineering consultants Bay New Plant, they have identified another 25 houses. That's 57. We feel that obviously if we come up with another 25, that's going to be in the order of 73, 75 houses. That's the equivalent of 750 houses being removed, or opening capacity for as much as 750 houses. The first phase, what we're doing right now, Your Worship, is actually going door to door, speaking to residents, and identifying the areas, the homes that have sump pumps tied to the actual sanitary sewer. Phase 2 will be corrective action. We need to try to take corrective action in consultation with the residents to make sure that no longer happens. This is quite separate from any development or rezoning applications. This is something we have to do anyway. First of all, because of environmental reasons. We recognize issues with capacity, and it's simply the right thing to do. We need to get at this and get this done. So I just want to let the residents know, and members of council know as well, that this has already been started. We actually started back in 2006 to 2007. I believe it's part of our Capital Works application, Mr. Antle, to the department as well. So we're seeking some funding to actually address this and take the corrective measures to put this in place. So some of the issues that were raised in public consultation, they're legitimate. They're very real. We recognize them, and we're doing everything we can in terms of allocating our own staff resources and our engineering consultants resources to address them. They will be addressed shorter or sooner, as I should say, rather than later. So I just wanted to bring that to the attention of council, to the residents' attention as well. This is an important initiative. It doesn't come without a cost. It's a very expensive initiative, but it's something that we have to get done. And I just wanted to raise that.
We also did a series of these already, right?
We did.
We did
two areas that were identified were the lower part of Sunrise Avenue and Norma's Avenue as well. And the situations can vary from one place to another in terms of what kinds of corrective actions are required, depending on the circumstances with the storm sewer, whether it's a lower storm sewer capacity, etc., whether or not there is actual weeping tile there. There are any number of things, and one can be entirely different than the other next door. But we're assessing the information, collecting the data, identifying the houses that have sump pumps, and the next phase is to actually schedule the corrective measures and develop a timetable for completion. The catchment area, by the way, has 16 different streets, 390 houses. So the door-to-door process is about halfway complete, I think, Mr. Antle, thereabout, and we're going to continue that until we're done. And then we identify corrective measures, and we set up a schedule to actually implementing that. So it's important for what you're going to discuss a little later. I think it's really important for the residents as well to know that those concerns will be alleviated. And it's also important for us as a council, as a governing body, to ensure that we are not surcharging the sanitary sewer and that we don't have problems, along those lines at all.
Stormwater in the sanitary sewer means that it's going to the Riverhead treatment plant.
Which means we're paying for treatment.
Paying to treat
yeah, we pay approximately $500,000 a year now towards the operating cost or thereabouts. And of course, if we're discharging storm water into the sanitary sewer, that means we're actually, and we pay on the basis of flows, it's metered, we're actually paying for the treatment of storm water, which is in our sanitary sewer, it's a bit of a double whammy, and we don't want to be doing that. So that's another good reason to try to take that on. Environmentally, we need to address issues of capacity, and of course the fact that we're paying for it yet again is these are all good reasons for us to address them. And I just wanted to bring that to the attention of council.
Thank you,
Question,
sir.
Your Worship.
Deputy Mayor?
Councillor Walsh, just in terms of the total number of houses left for this assessment of sump pumps. In this scope of work right now, I think you identified 400. Is that in this current scope of work?
That's correct.
And the plan is to continue with all remaining parts of the lower part of Mount Pearl.
Eventually, if I could just answer the first
Sure.
part of your question. Yep. Yeah, there are 390 identified. Up to now, we've done, I think, 150. But that's only restricted to the area that we've identified. The catchment area has 16 streets, and they're named in the report. and the press and others can have access to that information. We know that there are other areas, Deputy Mayor, outside of this catchment area that are problematic. But these are based on gravity feed and based on, an area that we had to identify. There's nothing, this is an area that we identify that we know that there are problems and we need to address them. Once those 16 streets are done and they're removed, there may be others in the older section of Mount Pearl, I think I'm correct in saying that, in the eastern side of Mount Pearl, that still could be problematic. This is not all of them, in other words, but this is taking care of a very large percentage of them. So again, and I'm a little cautious of throwing this out, if we had 67 houses identified, our engineering consultants tell us that would bring us to what they refer to as design capacity. In other words, there'd be no issues with overcapacity or surcharging or anything like that. That would be like your street, my street, and every other street in the city of Mount Pearl. And that's based on the fact, and I don't want to get too technical because I'm starting to sound like Mr. Randall, and that's God, scary.
Please avoid that.
And that would be really scary. But design capacity in most of these, what they refer to as design capacity is 60% capacity in the pipes. So the other 40% is for heavy rain events and other things where you would have surcharging. So it would have the capacity to handle it in certain extenuating circumstances. So
69 will bring us that
67. And we already have identified 57. So we're not going to have any problem meeting that, unfortunately, because we'd rather that there were none. But we have no problem identifying them. People, of course, who have some pumps directed into the sanitary sewer, understandably, they want to have it corrected. The people who live in the area deserve to ensure that there's no surcharging of storm water into their sanitary sewer, because that's an ugly problem that you don't want to have exacerbated at any point in time anyway. So we're dealing with it, and it will be addressed sooner rather than later. This is not directly related to the rezoning, but it's certainly very indirectly related to it as well. It was one of the issues that I think was brought up in the public consultation. It was very legitimate.
There's a real development history there, though. I look at Mr. Randall here, and one automatically asks, right, how does this happen? That these cross connects. The first I ever heard of them was about 15 years ago, and the word that was used on me at the time was, we have this series of cross connects. That where it should be in the storm sewer, but it's connected to the sanitary sewer. I guess historically, we're going back a fair ways. I'm thinking in terms of the last decade and a half for sure. We haven't had that kind of thing happening. Our inspection services and others see to it that any development that doesn't occur. So it is the older part of the city where this has cropped up to be a bit of a problem. Any other comments from anybody? Moving on, committee reports. With that, Councillor Ledwell, if you would.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. As you do mention, the first item on our agenda this evening is certainly to do with the proposed amendment to the development regulations. I guess what we refer to as the Municipal Avenue Amendment. I want to say good evening to everybody in the gallery this evening. Certainly great to see so much interest. The purpose of the amendment that we're considering this evening is to consider the rezoning of 33 to 39 Municipal Avenue, 19 to 20 Delaney Avenue, and the rear portion of 14 Orchard Avenue. And that's from residential medium density to apartment use. Now, the initial proposal that was received by the city from Carwood Contracting Limited was for a single apartment building, 4.5 stories, and for 42 units. Now, following a briefing session that was held on April 16, 2013, the proposal was modified by the developer. The new proposal was for two-story buildings for a total of 26 dwelling units. During the first briefing session that I referenced, there was a great number of really legitimate issues that were raised, certainly, by the public and by other stakeholders that were involved. So following the briefing session and Council's consideration of the matter, the developer was asked to go back and revise his proposal. Now, there were 7 major themes that came about in the briefing session, certainly all legitimate concerns, and the developer was asked to address these concerns, and I'm going to sort of outline them and go through them. The first main concern that was raised, I guess, was the appropriateness of the development, given the height, the scale, and the mass of the building that was proposed. Now, the original development was 4.5 stories and 42 units. The rejigged proposal that came back from the developer consisted of buildings that were 2 stories and 26 units. So the size and impact of the development was reduced significantly. Secondly, there was a question surrounding the impact of the property values of surrounding properties. Based on available information, it is not anticipated that there will be any negative impact on the values of surrounding properties. Any study, any information that we've had access to has not indicated that there will be any reduction in property values. Thank you. Thirdly, there was concern raised about an increase in traffic and the impact of that increase in traffic, particularly in light of the current standard in the road network in the neighborhood. The number of units has now been significantly reduced through this new proposal, and the developer has taken legitimate steps through reducing the amount of traffic in the neighborhood by reducing the number of dwelling units as part of the development. Fourth, the need for sidewalks and potential realignment of the road in the area was discussed, and Council has committed to the placement of sidewalks in the area on Municipal Avenue. This work will be completed once required underground infrastructure work is completed. The fifth concern that was raised, the fifth theme, if you will, was a loss of green space and the impact of the proposal where it's in close proximity to the Waterford River. The revised plans that came back from the developer the second time around indicate increased green space, and there is a plan in place from the developer to ensure that quality landscaping is done on these areas. Sixth concern that was raised was the loss of privacy on residential properties that are neighboring the development. The height of the building has been reduced from 4 stories to 2. What that means is that the windows in the development will only be at a 2nd story level rather than a 4th story level. Through this, the developer has done everything possible to reduce the impact in terms of neighboring properties and the view from the buildings into the rear yards of these neighboring properties. The 7th issue that was raised at that initial briefing session was issues around adequate water and sewer capacity in the area and the capacity to service that particular development. Now, as Councillor Walsh stated in his report, the City is committed and is now executing a study of water and sewer and stormwater management in the area, and certainly we have engaged a consultant to perform that work. The developer is also considering a temporary on-site solution until such time as there is adequate capacity in the sewer line. So, following that briefing session and the discussion of all of the main concerns that I've outlined, Carwood Contracting Limited prepared a revised plan and submitted the new proposal to the City in late November. A second briefing schedule was held on December 9th, 2013, to allow for discussion and input regarding the revised proposal. At the second briefing session, the following additional concerns were raised: snow clearing and the storage of snow for the subject property, as well as all of the neighboring residences. Also, traffic control at the corner of Municipal Avenue and Orchard Avenue, the proximity of the property to the Waterford River floodplain and the potential for flooding, on-site parking spaces that back out onto Municipal Avenue, and the appropriateness of this form of development for the neighborhood. Council and staff reviewed these additional concerns with a view to bring the matter forward to the first meeting of the Planning and Development Committee in January. The proposal was discussed by Committee of the Whole at our Committee of the Whole meeting on January 14th, 2014, and the committee was of the view that with the second proposal, the developer has addressed the concerns related to massing, shadowing, and the impact of significant traffic by reducing the size of the development. In addition, it was noted that the proposed amendment area is not located in the floodplain and is not located in the 15-meter buffer of the river. Now, Your Worship, the origins of this proposal date back to 2007. A housing and homelessness community for Mount Pearl, community plan, I should say, for Mount Pearl, was completed in 2009. One of the main priorities that was identified in that plan was the need for affordable housing for seniors. It is the committee's understanding that Carwood Contracting has an extensive waiting list of 90 to 100 seniors who are interested in the proposed Municipal Avenue development. The property at 33 to 39 Municipal Avenue is currently owned by the city. The developer has purchased properties at 19 to 21 Delaney Avenue, as well as 14 Orchard Avenue, to create a larger area for the property. The intent of the proposed amendment before us this evening is to provide Council with the opportunity to consider a multi-apartment building at this location. It is important to understand that at this point in the process, all we are considering is a rezoning to allow Council the opportunity to consider a development such as this, or perhaps something similar. The following items will be addressed as part of a review process once a proposal for a development is received. Sanitary storm sewer servicing and stormwater management, as Councillor Walsh has outlined earlier. Traffic control measures at the corner of Municipal and Orchard Avenues, and required road upgrades in the area. And of course, concerns related to snow clearing and snow storage to ensure that we don't have any problems with that. The Planning and Development Committee is of the view that although the proposed development differs from the surrounding single-family dwellings in the area, it is of a location and it is of a size that it will not adversely affect the surrounding neighborhood. The proposal is in keeping with the city's municipal plan, and for that reason, and the ones outlined above, it is the recommendation of the Planning and Development Committee that the proposed Mount Pearl Development Regulation 2010, Amendment Number 28, 2014, be adopted by Council as attached. And I so move.
It is moved. Seconder is Councillor Walsh. Moved and seconded. Question or comment from Council? Councillor Stiles.
I have a question. If this rezoning is to take place today and approved today, stories will not be any more than 2 stories. They can't come back and say, we're rezoning this to 2 stories.
Correct. Hearing none, I'm going to call the question. I'm going to identify Councillor Aker, who I think you're going to say, I'm not voting, I'm out of here.
Well, not that I'm not out of here, Your Worship. I'd like to declare in front of Council that I am in a conflict of interest because my employer, Newfoundland Labrador Housing, is supplying I believe it's a $40,000 per unit grant to subsidize. I'll leave that to Council to decide. If I am, as you declare, a conflict of interest, I will not be voting. If you don't declare me in conflict of interest, it is a perceived conflict of interest, there's no doubt. And I haven't participated in the process.
Council in my time, in my history, Council has always, we've always accepted that anybody who felt that they were in a conflict, even if we felt they weren't, we've always allowed that to stand.
Well, I wanted to declare that before we get to the vote.
We're going to recognize here that Councillor Aker will not vote on the matter that's before us right now. All right, and that being the case, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of the amendment as presented say aye. Aye. Contrary minded say nay. Motion is... What? John, where are you?
I didn't mean to fool you up. I'm sorry.
You did fool me up. Okay, motion is carried. Next item on the agenda would be to go back to item number 1 then.
Thank you, Your Worship. We will move on with the planning report. The first item on the agenda for planning is the proposed new building at 878 Topsail Road. Is an application by Amco Group Limited proposing to construct a new building with a floor area of 669 square meters. Amco will occupy a portion of the building, and there will be 3 additional commercial units created.
It's the one part that I don't really ever get anymore. Like 669 square meters. How many feet's that, guys, in the real world?
I'm a child of the metric system,
About
Your Worship.
1,800? About 7,000 square feet. Okay, carry on.
Thank you.
That's a big building.
Square feet is all of
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a child of the metric system, so
Yeah.
I am of no help to you
You're
whatsoever.
no help with that, no.
Yes. The subject property is a flag lot by definition, and what that means is it's a large lot that does not necessarily meet the minimum frontage standard for the use zone, but there is access to the lot by a narrow right-of-way or driveway. There is a revised access agreement that is registered between the City, Anthony Holdings, and Caramar Holding Limited. A revised access agreement is required to be registered with the updated property owner information. Prior to 1996, a residential dwelling has been approved for the property, but the building was removed after complaints about the disrepair of the structure were received. The site has now been vacant since that time frame, and the proposal for the new AMCO building was brought to the Committee of the Whole on May 28th of 2013. At the time, Council supported the proposal subject to the detailed plans being received. The subject property is zoned commercial mixed. The rear of the property is contiguous to open space use zone, and the subject property is enveloped by the future hillside development. Now, flag lot development is permitted according to the City Plan 2010, as long as the development represents efficient and effective manner of developing land and access to the development, which will not hinder the existing road network. The development application allows for all required parking. There are 22 spaces required, and the developer has allotted for 23. Also, the requirement of one mobility impaired parking space has been met. One additional factor in the discussion is to consider, the potential road reassignment and realignment from the hillside development. At this point, no further plans for the hillside group have been received, so at this point we can only consider this particular application under current conditions. And therefore, it is the recommendation of the Planning and Development Committee that the Council support the recommendation of the Planning and Development Department and move forward with the development, and I so move.
It is moved, seconded by Councillor Walsh. Just a question there are on the hillside development itself. We have literally 3 developers now that are going to work in harmony, I understand, with Leopard Canada. That's where we are, to develop the whole site, so the streetscape and everything works.
Yes, that's accurate.
This particular flag development, while it butts up against that, will not be connected to that in any way. This cannot impact on the plans that are current. If you overlaid this on the proposed development, it would be fine.
That is
Mr.
correct.
Yefchak?
That's my understanding.
Yes.
I haven't looked at the map to see that.
Yeah, Your Worship, the existing adopted plan, this flag lot will not impact that. The developers have gotten together and they're proposing a different road alignment, but that road alignment could affect this lot, but it's not a road alignment that's got any current status at this point. It's a concept, and even having said that it could affect this lot with this road alignment,
Is that what I'm seeing here with this Wingate Drive and Street E? Is all of that part of that? Or is that just the existing?
That's the existing you see there. That's the one that's actually in effect. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Got you. All right. Sure. Councillor Walsh. Yeah.
On that, because that's an important point. We can only make the decisions and put forth recommendations based on what's there existing, and the existing road network that was approved as part of the development plan. And that's what we're doing. So this flag lot development is in compliance, as Councillor Ledwell has pointed out. But we only mentioned the other road network because some concern was raised by council and others that maybe we should have a secondary access of this new site onto Mount Carson Avenue, so that there'd be, in the event of an emergency, there'd be another point of access and egress from the site. If that were to happen, and the developer were to put forth to the city another road network proposal, we would be able to view that, but it would have to be done in consultation with this developer and this development. So, exactly. And so the developers could then talk to this developer and say, we'd like to make an offer for the purchase and sale of your property or some other reasonable access to your property so that it would enable this to take place. Yeah. But right now, All we're dealing with is the existing road network and the existing application under the existing development regulations.
Yeah,
that's all we can deal with.
And that's
so
fine. Maybe
if it changes, it certainly changes the structure and operation of this development here, but that's something between the developers and this particular
Sure,
business
yeah, no,
operator.
I'm just concerned that I don't want to see what's happening on Hillside interrupted. You know,
Yeah.
this is a good
That won't
development
happen.
moving forward, and a tough development on tough terrain. And I know they're all getting together to try and complete this major project. That's all. I was just
That
voicing.
wouldn't happen, Your Worship.
I have just enough knowledge to be dangerous, not enough to know what was right about it. But I hear what you're saying, and certainly I support it. Go ahead, Councillor Stiles.
One of the things in the report says another catch basin should be installed. The catch, the overflow, I guess, the runoff, and the new development running on the Topsail Road. Are we going to insist that that's going to happen?
Yes, that's part of the condition.
That's part of the condition. Okay.
Yeah,
I just
what
want to
they
make
don't
sure.
have to
I said
do-
it should take place. I'm just
Yeah,
wondering
what they
if
don't have to do is do any detention, right? For this development.
That's,
Yeah, I believe they will have to do some detention, on-site detention, Your Worship. Yeah.
That will all become part and parcel
Yeah.
of the.
Now detention could be in the form of a lot of piping underneath the parking lot.
Yes,
It
which we've
doesn't
had
have to be a
always.
big pond.
Doesn't have to be a big pond or anything like that.
but that
No.
will happen.
And yes, and the catch basin for sure.
Catch basin should.
For sure, yeah. I'll call the question on. Oh, Mr. Yefchak, anything to add?
Yeah, if I could just finish the comment about the road network there. So there is a proposed road network by the major developers there that brings a road across through this property. But the reality is, as we looked at it, and again, it's only a proposed. What you see there is what's been approved by council. But the reality, if you look at it closely, even the proposed road network can have two cul-de-sacs ending at this property. So it's not as if they can't get access to it. It just means it won't be a straight road
Straight
through.
run the plan. All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried.
Your Worship, the second item under planning is the proposed redevelopment of the property at 22 to 24 Commonwealth Avenue. We've received an application by MAE Design on behalf of Cobalt Management Corporation. The site currently has a gas bar, there's an associated convenience store, and the garage bays. Of course, we're talking about the Irving station just over across the street from us. The proposal that we've now received is for a 3-tenant building with a partial demolition and building extension to accommodate a gas bar and convenience store, a drive-through coffee shop, and a possible short-order restaurant, possibly such as a pizza shop. Planning and Development Committee has reviewed a draft proposal for this site, and it has been determined that preparation of a land use impact assessment will be required as part of the process as we go through with this proposal. Now, this is due to the site's proximity to 3 intersections and a residential neighborhood. Certainly, it is a very busy site, and getting a good grasp on how the developer intends to utilize the site and flow traffic through there certainly would be very beneficial. Now, this is a new process for the city under the new development regulations. However, the Planning Department has consulted with neighboring municipalities who have similar processes, and a draft terms of reference, I guess, has been drafted for the land use impact assessment. Of course, it's in the kit there, if there are any questions on that. But the recommendation from the committee is that the Planning and Development Committee brings a terms of reference document for the land use impact assessment excuse me, for the redevelopment of the property at 22 to 24 Commonwealth Avenue forward for the approval of council so the proponent can proceed with the preparation of the assessment report for review by the city prior to the commencement of the public notification process required. And I so move.
Moved, seconded. Question, Your Worship. Deputy Mayor.
Just a question now regarding the land use impact assessment. I know this is a new tool that we're using. Just wondering if we can speak to under what circumstances now will this be engaged, or shall we say kick in? Will this be for all land uses, like under this? Because this is brand new to us. I'm just curious as to when this actually.
It's a new addition to the process, but I don't think it's going to be every time. Mr. Yefchak?
Yeah, you're correct. Yeah, you're correct, Your Worship. It'll be in situations where there is existing development that may have issues of compatibility, of issues of traffic, And in this case, it's traffic and it's also access to the site. I'll give you a good example of one of the issues is right now the site we're talking about is the Irving Station right across the street at that kind of skewered driveway coming into Centennial Street intersection. Creates, as I'm sure you're all aware, problems with traffic. And so, of course, one of the issues is how can we improve that access onto the site. You're going to need a traffic engineer to take a look at that. And this is part of what the impact assessment will do.
Just as an offhanded comment to what you're saying, Mr. Yevchik, there is an unintended positive consequence to that then.
We believe there will be.
I believe getting off that Irving site, in my time coming in and out of Centennial here, that is fairly dangerous. People actually don't understand when they're supposed to go and when they're not supposed to go when they're trying to come off that site.
Yeah, so that's a specific.
It needs to be better defined, and maybe this impact assessment will give us some recommendations on that.
Well, that's correct, Your Worship. So it's those, and that's a very specific example in terms of this property. That's one of them, but it's in those properties that, as we review it as staff, we say we're going to need more information. We know it's going to go through a public process, and we're trying to get that more information to the public by professionals, by people that are experts in the field on behalf of the developer. So when we go to a public session, not only do they see the site plan, which is our traditional approach, but then they have a number of things answered in the report, such as things like property values. We have a number of houses next to this property. That'll be a concern of theirs. Lighting, how will the lighting affect their property? Noise, we have our noise bylaw, so how will the development respond to that? That kind of information. And that's meant to be as a tool.
Well,
it's meant to be as a tool to assist council in assessing the impact and also informing the public of what the implications of this development are.
I'm not questioning the usefulness of this, and I agree totally with that, and I applaud that we got that in. So is it up to the discretion of our planning department as to when? So that was my question. So it will be...
It's to the discretion of council.
Okay.
To whether or not we want to use it. Mr. Yevchik and then Mr. Aker.
You just respond again, Your Worship. But yeah, what we will do is we'll take a look at a development proposal, and if we feel there's issues here that we need more information, we will bring it to the Planning and Development Committee, and as we're doing likewise today, to council for a decision. On the other hand, though, if council feels that there's a particular development that you wish to see more information from the developer prior to it going, let's say, through a public process, then the council can, and by decision of council, saying, we would like to send this back to the department. We want, land use impact assessment done. Could you prepare terms of reference? And these are the concerns that we have that we feel should be addressed prior to going to a public process.
Councilor Aker.
Yeah, I support the recommendation. I think it's you're trying to adapt your process basically to the situation. But just so that I get this right, when we did some of the drive-through related changes up at the, I'll say the top of Commonwealth there, where the old CI, where Dougie's is, and around the world. Yep. We didn't go through this process. We went through a briefing session, a discretionary process primarily driven by the drive-through. So just to clarify, the reason we're doing this is because of the access issues, where we're tied right into that intersection. We've got a heavy commercial area. We've got the intersection with Bannister, Centennial Square. If this was anywhere else in Commonwealth, we may not use it.
Correct.
So in this particular case, the criteria that jumps out is the egress and the level of traffic at that egress.
Have we made, by the way, did anybody make the motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, you made the motion. Councilor Walsh, sorry, go ahead.
Another advantage of this, and I think we shouldn't lose sight of this, is this impact study could preempt some of the arguments or objections that could come about as a result of public consultation. So in actual fact, what we're doing is being proactive. We're being prepared to address questions. So people say, well, have you thought about traffic? Well, as a matter of fact, we have thought about traffic. And what we're proposing for the traffic is, have we thought about the impact on the residents on First Street? Well, as a matter of fact, that was something that was just... So all these things can be done in advance so that when people raise objections or concerns, which are very legitimate, very real, we would actually have answers or information or data that we'd be able to provide to them and for them as part of the public consultation. Whereas very often right now in public consultation, the issues are raised and we don't have any answers. we'll have to go back and refer them and say, okay. So I think as a proactive move, I think this could preempt quite a number of concerns that we might otherwise get through public consultation.
Okay, now I'm going to call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded? Motion is carried. Councillor Ledwell.
Thank you, Your Worship. Continuing on, our next item, of course, we've already dealt with Municipal Avenue. The next item there is our proposed family childcare use. It's at 26 Easton Place. The Planning and Development Committee has reviewed an application to occupy approximately 97 square meters, there's the metric system again, of the double dwelling at 26 Easton Place to operate a family childcare use. Now, the applicant proposes to provide childcare services for a maximum of 6 children, including 1 child that currently resides at the dwelling. The proposed hours of operation are Monday to Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., and the use proposes to utilize 66% of the total floor area of the dwelling. There will not be any construction or renovations. There won't be any signage as per the submitted application from the proponent. There are 2 on-site parking spaces currently, and there is 1 resident employee, of course, who is going to operate the childcare use. There will be visitors to the home twice a day, in the mornings and in the afternoons, for the drop-off and pick-up of children. The applicant has stated that drop-off and pick-up times will be coordinated with all parents in order to ensure that the street is not utilized for parking. In addition, there is currently a no parking sign on the same side of the street as the property. So that being the case, of course, we certainly can't be having any parking on the street. Now, Easton Place is a cul-de-sac, which serves only as an access to the dwellings on that particular cul-de-sac. Every dwelling on Easton Place is owned by the Easton Co-op Housing Limited. The proponent has submitted a letter as part of their proposal from the Easton Housing Cooperative Society Limited, supporting the proposal to operate a family childcare use. Family childcare use is a permitted use within the residential land use designation. One other note to keep in mind is that currently Council is in the process of amending regulations to reduce or eliminate off-street parking requirements for this type of use. So with all that being said, the Planning and Development Committee recommends that the development application for a family childcare use at 26 Easton Place be approved and a development permit be issued in accordance with the Mount Pearl Development Regulations 2010 and more specifically Regulation 4.5 and 7.11, as well as conditions outlined by the City Inspector, the Finance Division, and the Planning Services Division, and I so move.
Moved, seconded. Question or comment? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary-minded? Motion carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. Continuing on, we now have a proposed new building and associated site work. This is at the Seventh-day Adventist Church site on Kenmount Road. It is for radio station use and office use. It's been submitted by AE Consultants on behalf of the church. The application is proposing to develop a new building with a floor area of 655 square meters and complete site work on the church's parcel of land that is at Kenmount Road for a proposed radio station. There are 2 existing transmitter towers currently on the site and a transmitter accessory building as well. The property owner has expressed interest in additional development at the site. The developer has expressed potential interest in acquiring and developing crown land to the east of the property boundary for access purposes in the future. The subject property is located on the southern side of Kenmount Road. The property to the west is currently vacant, but is zoned light industrial and will potentially be developed in the future. The property east is Crown land. The property east of the Crown land is the existing Anglican cemetery. The property is in close proximity to both Paradise and St. John's. However, at this point, neither municipality has brought forward any concerns about the development. The property is zoned light industrial, and the proposed office use and communications use are both permitted uses within the zone. The city has indicated that it would not support any additional access points in this area of Kenmount Road, in addition to the proposed driveway submitted, as this would result in accesses being too close to one another. If the Crown land was to be developed for access purposes, the current proposed driveway would have to be closed. Now, the developer is responsible for all costs associated with water and sewer servicing in the existing municipal infrastructure. Once the second building is constructed, the service easement between 9 and 15 Alston Street in the area will have to be transferred to the city. Letters are required from the owners of 9 and 15 Austin Street, indicating their support for the development and the dealings with the easement. Now, the proposal can accommodate the proposal does accommodate the minimum off-street parking requirements. The department has reviewed the application and recommends that the development permit be issued. And to that end, the recommendation of the committee is that the Planning and Development Committee recommends that pending receipts of the letters outlined below in your kit, the development application by AE Consultants on behalf of the property owner of Seventh-day Adventist Church, proposing to develop a new building with a floor area of 655 square meters and complete associated site work at the parcel of Kenmount Road for a proposed radio station be approved and the development permit be issued subject to the conditions outlined, and I so move.
Moved. Seconded. Question or comment?
Quite a parcel of land.
He's got a beautiful piece of land there. The church does, yeah. In fact, there was one proposal that was being talked about was to build a commercial building there, kind of like a high-rise kind of deal, and put the towers for the radio station on the building. Right? I don't know if that's going to happen at some point or not. Yeah. Anyway, all those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried.
Continuing on, we have the proposed electronic sign proposed electronic sign at 885 Topsail Road. It is being proposed by E.C. Boone and Shepherd Case. Development application from E.C. Boone and Shepherd Case Architects for the construction of a number of signs, including a combined changeable message ground sign, is to be located at 885 Topsail Road. The city's development regulations require that the location of the ground sign would have to be set back half of the height of the sign to comply with the city's regulations. The proponents are requesting permission to place the sign setback at 0.89 meters from the property boundary. This is the proponent's preferred location, as the site is subject to several easements. Now, the presence of these easements at the site severely limit the option for the placement of the sign on the property. However, the city's regulations give it the authority to approve the sign at the suggested placement. Currently, the department has no objection with the placement of the sign under the current condition and road layout. However, it should be noted that this area of Topsail Road is subject to potential future widening to accommodate an additional lane. Excuse me. This would reduce the front yard setback of the sign from approximately 6 meters to 2.69 meters. At this point, it is impossible to assess what the impact of the placement of the sign will be under those conditions, so we have no choice, I suppose, but to consider the sign at the present conditions, and thus the recommendation of the committee is that the proposed combined changeable message sign or ground sign at 885 Topsail Road be approved, subject to the condition being placed in the development permit that the sign location may need to be reconsidered should Topsail Road widening occur and should there be any resulting sightline issues. All costs associated with the potential relocation and or physical changes to the sign would be that of the property owner at 885 Topsail Road, and I so move.
Moved, seconded. All those in favor? Question? Sorry, Councillor Aker.
I'm just curious. So down the road, we decide to widen Topsail Road and take our right-of-way in for widening the street or for creating sidewalks. If that sign has to be relocated down the road, will that be at the expense of the owner of the property?
What I just said.
Right? No, I just want to clarify.
Yes, Councillor Aker, that is accurate.
Yeah, fair enough. Thank you. Yeah.
All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried. And have the record note that Councillor Stoyles abstains under conflict of interest.
The next item, Your Worship, is the development permit list for the period of January 13th to the 24th of 2014. It is a somewhat short list with only one development permit to move, and I'd like to move the permit.
Moved, seconded. All in favor? Carried.
Next item is our permit totals for the period of January 1st to the 24th, 2014. On the residential side, our totals for the period are $1,148,500, and I so move.
Moved, seconded by Councillor Walsh. All in favor? Aye. Contrary-minded? Carried.
The next item is the commercial permits for the same period. The total there is $751,000, and I so move.
Question.
Moved, seconded. Councillor Stoyles.
Thank you, Your Worship. Item number 10, Your Worship, I believe is an item that was in the public chamber a number of times.
Item number 10.
item number 10 is
Where?
Martech,
Where are you seeing it?
756 to 777 Topsail Road, the accessory building at the Mount Pearl Square. I'm just have some concerns with that one.
Item 10, Martech. I got you.
Martech, this is the one that has been moved twice now because of residents and that, and I'm
Right.
just wondering, do we have any other businesses in the city that has an accessory building facade, and should there be restrictions on it? My concern is that it's somebody that has a contract and they're only going to be there for the winter months, so I'm hoping it's not going to be there all summer long, and the site of the container is certainly to be desired. It has all kinds of graffiti and everything over it, but my main concern
Yeah, I got to
is,
tell you, it's ugly as sin.
my main concern is that should it be just, if we do give them a permit, should we have some restrictions on it, because they're only going to be there for the winter months, and is it going to be a temporary permit that we're going to give them, because they might not be on that site next year at all. So my first question was, do we do it in any other area in the city that we would allow a company to put a container on the salt, that parking lot, and of course certainly would want them not to use it to do any other sites within the city.
Well, let's
to-
ask.
to
Do we
do
do
it.
that? Do we have others?
In terms of a container, I cannot say for sure that we do, but we do have salt sheds in the city,
Because this is treated as a salt shed.
right?
Right? I mean, this is treated.
Yeah,
it's
we
a-
have
In our
one.
demo.
We have one.
In our demo.
It's just a big container, but it's treated
Yeah,
as a salt
what
shed.
they've done is they take a container and they put their salt in there, and I know there's concerns by some council members about what they're actually doing there, but we've been in a lot of contact with Martech, who are the property managers, and they have told us that this operation is solely for that site. They've moved the container and they've tucked it in kind of into a corner of that shopping center.
Where they got it now is okay.
Yeah, and they've
Fine,
also and they're also aware that they've got to clean it up. And it is a
Oh, God, it's ugly
graffiti.
sin.
Yeah, so they will do that. Now we put no restrictions on it in terms of it only being a temporary location there. Martech is the property manager, and they made the application. So presumably they're looking at it as a
Keeping it.
long-term investment. Yeah.
Yeah, it's for their property. So whoever the contractor is that comes to do their snow plowing.
So Martech actually
use
owns
that
it,
shed.
not the company. My understanding was the company that's doing the snow clearing owns the container. Am I?
They're hired by Martech.
Yeah, I don't know who owns the shed itself, but Martech, the property owner, the property manager,
Is
made the
applying for the
application
permit.
for it. So they're responsible for that container on that site.
So it's a permanent. It's going to be a permanent container on the site there year round. Now is that the case?
Yeah, we did not put any restriction on that. Correct.
Okay.
Don't know if it'll be there
I
year-
won't be supporting it.
I don't know if it'll be there year round, but it's certainly their right to have it there. Your worship. Councilor Rader.
So in our regulations, our regulations would allow a shed. Our regulations, are you saying, don't allow us to regulate the use of that shed? They don't go to that much detail unless they violate some other regulation like a noise bylaw. So if we were using this shed, would it not be conditional using it for salt because it creates noise, which violates our bylaws for noise, maybe? You know, in the middle of the night after 11 o'clock?
We can regulate the use of the accessory building or the shed. We have that authority, but the activities that are generated by that, such as noise, would come under a different bylaw, and we would regulate that through, in this case, the noise bylaw. And right now, and I know there has been issues about noise that I believe Councilor Stoyles has raised, and correctly so, because they've been outside of the limits of the bylaw. But right now, there's a certain time that any snow event that they can go and start cleaning up the site with machines and that. And I believe that's within a 24-hour at the end of a snow event. So within that period, when it starts, within 24 hours after it ends, they have that right to go on and keep on cleaning until it's done, right? And that's the noise bylaw, not the development regulations.
Comment, please, Your Worship.
Councillor Walsh.
We live in a fairly severe northern climate. It's pretty difficult for us to not have some accommodations for snow clearing. I know, in the 10 years that I was principal at O'Donnell High School, we got complaints on a fairly regular basis from the people below us about snow clearing operations on the site. If you look at large sites like the Pearlgate site, there are at least 3 pieces of very heavy equipment, big pieces of equipment on that site that are parked there throughout the winter for snow clearing operations. Not only that, but there are some accessory blades dropped there, et cetera, at different times. We have to try to accommodate that. The one piece that I do agree fully with Councillor Stalls on is if they're using this site to service other parking lots, that's a different use, and we have the authority to regulate that use. Because now you're operating a business and using that salt shed to operate. That's not the condition that this was approved on. It was for contained use in a certain location on this site. But I would like to remind all of us that we cannot be so strict in our enforcement of winter snow clearing regulations that we would see ourselves as being the biggest violator, because we are, if you actually strictly enforce snow clearing regulations. I mean, we're on streets 3 o'clock in the morning, going through neighborhoods with, huge pieces of equipment to blow back snow. And we don't have any choice but to do that during those times. So we have to be mindful of our obligations and be mindful of the fact that we're living in a northern climate, and we need to be able to clear the snow. These businesses need to be open for business. That's, for example, houses Eastern Health. 7 o'clock in the morning, those lots have to be cleared. Snow has to be cleared. They have to be salted and sanded and ready to go. So we can't be too picky in terms of regulations. We even try to use a lot of discretion, Mr. Yefchek, in the deployment of our noise bylaws when it comes to winter operations.
Thank you. Going to call the question. All those in favor of the permit list, say aye. Aye. Contrary minded is a nay.
Just the number 10.
Okay. Next.
We have one final item, Your Worship, to cover, and that involves a revised building permit listing for the period of December 14th to the 31st, 2013, the year-end piece. And that's just to include the municipal works and subdivision totals for the period. I'm just going to run down and move the various aspects of all of this. First of all, the residential for the period was $1,638,000, and I so move.
Moved, seconded, all in favor? Aye. Contrary minded, carried.
The commercial piece, the permits for the period December 14th to the 31st were the total $1,513,000, and I so move.
Moved, seconded, all in favor? Contrary minded, carried.
Now for the revised portion for the municipal works for the period, $28,028,029, and I so move.
Moved, seconded, all in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried.
And finally, with that, the subdivisions for the period December 14th to the 31st, the total work for the period $3,470,000, and I so move.
Moved, seconded, all in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried.
And mercifully, that concludes planning for this evening.
Planning.
That must be close on a record, is it?
I think it is.
No, not really, I don't think, but it's up there. Community Services Committee report, Deputy Mayor Locke.
Well, fortunately, Your Worship, my report is going to be significantly shorter than Councillor Ledwell's. I have 2 items here, and the first, Your Worship, is has to do with the Mount Pearl Sport Alliance Sports Hall of Fame and Athlete of the Year award ceremony. That's actually being held this Friday night in partnership with the City of Mount Pearl. The Alliance will be hosting the Hall of Fame and Athlete of the Year ceremonies at the Reed Community Centre starting at 7 p.m. And further information is available by contacting the Alliance office at 748-6489, or their email is outlined there, mpsportalliance@mountpearl.ca, and that's for information purposes.
And I got to stop you. We're hosting a reception here at City Hall.
Prior to.
At about 5:30?
Yes. Yeah, for the Hall of Famers.
For the Hall of Famers?
Yep.
Because I have the opening of the Skate Canada thing
Mm-hmm.
at the Glacier at 5. Get ready to dance.
Okay. I can dance.
Okay.
All right. Good. The two-step. And the second item for me, Your Worship, has already been touched on. Mike Mooney spoke to this, the Frosty Festival. So I won't get into all because Mike did a great job covering it. But just a reminder that the booklets are out February the 6th to the 15th. Tickets are on sale for the various events, as Mr. Mooney outlined. So I encourage people to get out to that. Now, Your Worship, I do have another item that I was going to bring up under new business, or I could do it right now as a part of the committee. It sort of came on afterwards. It's the focus.
Leave of council. Go for it.
Right?
Go for it. Yep.
Thank you. A Focus on Youth 2013 nominations. The Focus on Youth Awards program. This is one of the highlights in my calendars every year. This is a 25th annual banquet and show that's going to take place this year on May the 14th. And just to highlight that the deadline for nominations is Monday, March the 3rd of 2014. And I know, as you know, I work in the high school, and every year we are asked by the organizers to nominate students in the various categories. There are 15 categories outlined here. I won't go down through all of them, but they're all. There are so many youth in our city that are deserving of recognition. So I'd encourage our residents. You can nominate your children, your neighbors, people that may be in your scouting group or your sporting team. Take the time. The forms, are available through the Community Services Department, and they're not that onerous to fill out, but it is a great, great event. As I said, it's one of the highlights of my calendar years to go and see these kids, because it's amazing what some of these young folk are doing in our city, and of course, not to forget the adults that are recognized for all the work that they do with our youth. So again, just to throw it out there that it will take place on May the 14th. That's the awards program, and the deadline for nominations is Monday, March the 3rd. So I'd encourage everyone. They can contact Gary Fraser with the Community Services Department at 748-1010. And that is it for me, Your Worship. Thank you.
I thank you, sir, very much. Corporate Services, Councillor Aker.
Thank you, Your Worship.
You spending any money or what?
Well, always, yes, but we had a good month. Our cash flow was more positive in January, like it usually is, than it is than negative.
Don't tell the province.
No, but that's only short-lived. First item is professional development training for Councillor Tessier in accordance with our professional development policy to attend the FCM conference. That's the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. It's being held May 30th to June 2nd, and I so move.
Moved and seconded. Who's seconding corporate services these days? Lucy
Councillor
Stoyles
Tessier.
is today. All those in favor?
Thank you.
Contrary minded, motion carried.
And the second item is the payment register there in the amount of $1,474,836.31, and you'll see 10 items there, made up mostly, largely 90%, good 80% of it is for Marco Services. Progress payment number 20. We're getting near the end, and that's for the Reed Center multiplex, of course. And I so move.
It is moved and seconded. What do you think of calling the multiplex? We've got to give it a name. Everybody is talking about a name. We can't call it the Randy Sims Memorial thing because you got to kill me, and I don't want to go yet. How about calling it the Pearlplex? What do you think?
I suggested that already.
According to the deputy mayor, it was his idea. What do you think of it?
If I can just speak to that.
We'll discuss it another time.
I'm having a bit of fun with you here. Come on.
We are discussing that, actually, Your Worship, at the community services level. And we're looking at some options that maybe get some input from our residents. We're looking at not necessarily a competition, but maybe we could put it out there to have residents offer some names for our Recplex to get some.
Were you around for the you weren't around for the Glacier, were you?
No. I like the Glacier.
You were around for the naming of the Glacier. Oh my God! How much agonizing did we do over the Glacier? What a funny name, the Glacier. But now today.
Well, can I give you what I suggested for the complex?
I thought you said Pearlplex.
No, that was my initial one, but...
Oh, you rejected that one.
As you know, I'm a geographer by trade.
Oh, my God.
And I speak, we spend quite a bit of time in our coursework on glaciers. Newfoundland is a glaciated landscape. Many of the features that we see in the...
There's not going to be a quiz.
In the Waterford Valley all a result of glaciation. So I was delighted because I'm always telling my students that geography is everywhere, and I always highlight the names that we put on, and of course I highlight our lovely glacier.
Well, the glacier too is
So
supposed
I'd
to be
like
called Bergievich. You know that, right?
I'd like to see the whole complex called the Glacier Complex. I'd like to see Glacier 1 called the Continental Center, because there's two types of glaciers. There's a continental glacier,
What
and then
fantasy trip did he go
Glacier
off
2, I'd like to be called the Alpine Center, because there's
There's
an alpine glacier, and then from the meltwaters of glaciers, there's a lake that's called the Tarn. So the swimming pool is
Tarn.
downstream from our two glaciers.
Oh, man, we can't
So
name
we've
something
called
the
the pool,
Tarn.
just throwing it out there. But we are seriously considering putting it out to our residents to get some input. So just to
We
throw
can't
that out.
call anything Tarn. Tarn. We can't do that stuff. Anyway. I don't know. I thought Pearlplex was excellent. I gather not, but Tarn, no way. Let's let the residents have a shot at this, for God's sake. Don't leave it to the committee. All those in favor of paying those $1 million worth of bills, somebody say yes. Aye. Contrary minded. Motion is carried. Thank you, sir. Okay, we are moving on here. Regional Services and Environment Committee. Councillor Stoyles.
I think it should be called Out of This World, because that's what it's going to be.
Should be called Out of This World. It's definitely going to be that. It's going to be fabulous.
We have a couple of things, Your Worship. Our report is the Regional Water Committee. The Bay Bowls water level is certainly stable, especially with all the water and everything, the rain we've had the past number of days and weeks. So we just wanted to say that we're certainly in good shape with levels are great, yeah. And we haven't. So, the other thing we have, Your Worship, the other information is the North East Avalon Joint Council had a joint council meeting in Torbay last month. Still this month, January 15, and our CEO Michelle Peach attended that meeting, and they do have a new executive, and Sterling Willis from Paradise is the chair, Peggy Roach from Torbay is the vice chair, Steve Tessier, treasurer, Renee Stratus is the secretary, and we have some other committees there, policy and membership for information. I'm sure we're going to send a letter off to Sterling wishing the new committee well, and the next meeting is in CBS and is the third Wednesday of every month. Also, Your Worship, the Eastern Regional Service Board have released their fees for 2014, April the 1st, 2014 to March 31st, 2015. These fees are going to remain the same as last year, and landfill material will be at $67.60 per metric ton, and recycling material will be at a cost of $20 per metric ton. And that is, I guess, not ours to make a motion on, is the fees in the region.
No, that is what it is, but it goes to show the more
is.
we can recycle and get out of the landfill, we're saving $47.50 a ton for every ton of it we move. Right? 40% of that is organics. As long as you don't go encouraging residents to compost. Stop that. Right? We'll be all right.
The other item we have, Your Worship. Yeah. The other item we have is an update on the oil spill at North Atlantic that took place in 2010 in December. And of course, in December there was the courts found them guilty, and there was a $100,000 fine to that for the federal violation. And now our staff is compiling our costs, because before they took over and it was deemed to be North Atlantic's issue, that there was a large cost to the city, and our staff now is in the process of compiling that. We're thinking it's hopefully under $100,000, and we will be sending off the information to North Atlantic for repayment to the city, and that's also for information only. And we've been getting some media calling and looking for information on those along with residents. And Ms. Peach, I think, would like to comment on that.
The costs have now been compiled, and they're actually in the range of $130,000. And I have written North Atlantic Petroleum, and I have talked to the general manager there, and we have started that process.
Okay.
So
good.
we're hoping to hear very shortly. Got a
Now
good
the
response.
condition, meanwhile, the condition, meanwhile, of the pond itself is now good. We do have a detention pond put in the area that we're going to have to seriously look at, either taking it out or dressing it up. And I think the recommendation that's going to come through committee, well, from staff, is to keep it, which means we're going to dress it up. I think that's what's going to happen. And maybe if we get our 130, if they give us back the money we spent, maybe we can dress it up using that. But anyway. Oh yeah, everybody's got a right Pearlplex, man. Come on.
Also, Your Worship, the committee received an update on the silage runoff in the Powers Pond from the development, and that happened last year. And of course, with all the rain and everything, we've certainly seen some more concerns appearing now, and our staff has been monitoring that and will be taking the necessary cautions.
This, of course, is the Dannyville stuff, right?
Yes, it is, and because they had so much rain and that before Christmas, and that we had concerns, and we had a number of residents, and it was really muddy and really bad. And they had done some ditching and put in the silching protecting and all that kind of stuff, and it was certainly coming really clean. And you could see when you went up and walked it, because we walked up and had a look at it, and you could see that it was clearing, and now it's starting to get bad again because of the heavy rain again. So our staff is monitoring that and working closely with the City of St. John's.
We need a permanent solution, though.
Question?
Councillor Raker.
Comment. I was up there today, and the dams that we've put into, I'll call it, on the eastern, maybe the northern side, I should say, of Old Placentia Road, as the stream comes across Old Placentia and heads down to Powers Pond. They seem to be holding up pretty well, but the area, the water that's coming down from Glencrest is dirty, and luckily our dams there are holding it. Is there any way we could contact the City of St. John's? Perhaps there's something at the other end. You know, I'm glad our dams are working, but I wouldn't want to be thinking that they're the last resort. So maybe there's some additional siltation that's occurring over there. Maybe it's manageable. Have we checked in the last few days? We had an enormous amount of rain last night.
Mr. Adel.
Yes, we check them periodically, and we have a continuous connection with the City of St. John's, who's supervising that development that's happening there. Some of the debris or the silt that you want to see that's there, yeah, it's due to the heavy rains. Sometimes there is properties inside the City of Mount Pearl boundary as well that we get during any normal heavy rain. You will get some erosion along some of the ditches that are upstream there. So we keep in contact with them closely. So anytime we see a level of siltation, we'll call them. They're very fast to respond at this point in time. Every time we've called them, they've visited our properties, the ponds inside Mount Pearl, and they've visited the property owner, the developer outside as well.
Okay, thank you. And that concludes your committee report.
Yes, sure.
We're going to Transportation. Councillor Tessier in Halifax, not with us today. Councillor Ledwell, if you would. And I do believe that Deputy Mayor is the alternate. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. We just have one item on the agenda for transportation and public safety, and that's just an FYI for council and residents. I guess the Hypothermic Half Marathon is happening on Sunday, February 2nd. That is this coming Sunday.
Why is it called hypothermic? What do you run around with no clothes on or something, freeze to death?
I guess because it's in the winter and you're going to be running with shorts
Jason
and a
is
t-shirt.
nodding over there like, yeah, that's what they do.
So this event is being hosted by the Running Room. It's their 8th annual Hypothermic Half Marathon. It's going to be, as you see there, it's outlined in the kit there, the route they're going to take. It's going to start at Topsail Road there, go up Coruscant Drive, Clyde Avenue into Donovan's, ultimately finish at Topsail Road there at the intersection of Duns Road. Certainly our municipal enforcement and the RNC are aware and do plan to assist with the security of the runners on that particular run. So that's just an FYI to council and the residents of that particular event happening this weekend.
Man, they're going to go through all of them. They're running everything at Donovan's. And then they're going over to Emerald and Sapphire, Westminster, Trafalgar. Dear God.
Permit's been issued for that.
Yes, that's what we're doing. I'm assuming, yes, that that's been done. Do we need a motion?
No, my understanding is the permit has been issued already.
Already
Yes.
been done. Good enough.
My apologies.
Okay. That concludes all committee reports. We're up to new business. Deputy Mayor.
Just have three items here. The first, I want to send out condolences to Mike Bugden and his family for the passing of his mother, Marigold. Unfortunately, I was out of town and couldn't make it to the funeral service, but I just wanted to acknowledge it publicly and again send out our sympathies to Mike and certainly all of his family. The next couple of items, Your Worship, are good news items. Firstly, I just wanted to acknowledge a few Mount Pearl residents. As you may know, the Newfoundland and Labrador Provincial Women's Curling Champions, the Scottish Newfoundland and Labrador Provincial Curling Champions, were the Heather Strong Rink. And they are off this weekend, February 1st, to go to Montreal to represent the province. And so they're going up to represent us. And I just want to throw congratulations, of course, to Heather Strong and Laura Strong. Heather's the skip, Laura Strong is the second. And also, they've picked up a fifth member, and that is Noelle Thomas Kennel. And these three ladies are from Mount Pearl, so I just wanted to send out good luck. We're proud of them for their accomplishments, and we know they will represent us very well in Montreal this coming weekend.
And we need a curling club. Just saying.
Yes.
Somewhere next to the Pearlplex. See, the name fits, right? Somewhere next to the Pearlplex, we should build a curling club.
Right.
Right? Attached to the
to
glacier.
the Alpine. Attached to the Alpine
what's
Centre.
The pond? The tarn.
Yeah.
Carry on, Deputy Mayor.
Sorry.
Yeah. The oyster.
Oh my God, the oyster. Okay. And the last item from Your Worship.
I'm telling you, I'm selling Pearlplex. Go ahead.
I don't mind to sell Pearlplex since it was my idea, but that's okay.
I'm selling your idea.
This past Saturday, I had the privilege of attending the annual Char Dinner hosted by the
which was salmon this year.
Church of the Good Shepherd, and it was salmon this year, but it was absolutely delicious. And at that time, as you know, the parish each year supports a local charity with a $1,000 donation, and this year they chose the city's program, the Pearl program, which of course helps needy children, those who can't afford the registration or the equipment to participate in sporting activities in our city. We've had several hundred students or children that have availed of this, so I thought it was a very generous gesture for, again, the parish of the Good Shepherd to direct $1,000 this year to our program. So I'd like to present this to you, Your Worship, from the parish, and extend again a sincere thank you to them.
Thank you, sir. We will do that. Right. Thank you very much.
And
Wonderful.
That is it for me, Your Worship.
Excellent. Thank you. Councillor Stoyles.
Thank you, Worship. Always a great meal up at the Church of the Good Shepherd, and it's great to see that supporting groups like this and families like this who certainly need it. I just have one item, Your Worship, and want to mention yesterday was Family Literacy Day, and I know our library hosted an event in the morning and again in the evening, and I want to say thank you to the Mount Pearl Library for especially supporting Family Literacy Day, and also we hosted a meeting here last night at City Hall for the PGI Literacy Group as well, and I was here at that function. And
I think Council would like to hear my poem.
Actually, do you think you could remember it?
I did the poem. I was
the
poet laureate. No,
No.
I don't remember it.
Last year he was the poet laureate at the PGI golf tournament, and it was quite good.
It went over okay.
Anyway,
they didn't throw me out.
They have a book of those poems that they do,
and they fed me.
And they fed you, and it was quite good. But I wanted to say, hats off to the city for all they do to support literacy in our schools, who is always promoting literacy, and it's great to see our library and the city involved in it as well. I know Mr. Yevchek had played a major part in it over the years and helped organise some activities with literacy days and things like that. And we really need to bring it back because, we're having more and more the provincial government is just putting money in now. I learned last night for stay in school programs to hit the junior high children, because believe it or not, we have a lot of people dropping out of school in grade, before they hit high school, and it's quite sad to see that happening. And I want to say hats off again to the city. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Walsh.
I have nothing, Your Worship.
Councillor Aker.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to make a comment and a little congratulations on an event that's coming up in support of, Easter Seals, Rainbow Riders, and the Mazzol Shriners, and that will be the Twin Cities Challenge. Our general manager is sitting across the aisle from me, Mr. Jason Collins. He's picking the team. We all, as employees of the city, or some of us on council, hope to raise $100 each. I think there's 16 on the team. That's this coming Sunday, I believe, weather permitting. I think it'll be cold anyway. Hopefully we won't have too much snow. And I think we're going to be wearing Blades jerseys, so it's going to boil down to Blades versus the Capitals. And this is put off by Rod Churchill and his family, primarily in the name of Carter, and that's a son of theirs who is deaf. So we're looking forward to that fundraiser. And of course,
we did get a good team, did we?
I'm expecting.
It's all fun, Your Worship.
I volunteered to coach, and nobody picked me up on it at all.
We've got a bit of finesse on the team in Director Collins. We've got a lot of grit on the team in Councillor Tess here. And the rest.
Oh, she actually knows how to play hockey.
And is Deputy Mayor, are you playing this year too? He can't play, yeah. So he's on injured reserve. Yeah. So we may need a coach. We may need an assistant coach.
Well, I volunteered to coach, and nobody picked me up on it. So no, the heck with you now.
You're invited.
You can coach him now. I'll bet Sookie about it. I'm going up to the Pearlplex instead.
I also wanted to say condolences to the Bugden family too on Marigold's passing. Mike's been a big part of the fabric of the community in Mount Pearl, and talking to him and his brother and sister on Sunday, he comes by it honestly. He comes by it from his mother and father. Right? There's no doubt. There's a lot of Marigold in Mike. So our condolences. Finally, Your Worship, little congratulations going out to a couple of engineering students that were on a team that competed in the Atlantic Engineering Competition in Moncton. Mm-hmm. The team came in second out of 8 teams competing, and they've now earned progression over to the Nationals. Members of the team from Mount Pearl are Jake Parsons and a fellow named, as we'll all know, as a former Youth of the Year, Brian Peach. So congratulations to them. Thank you.
Your Worship, I missed down one item. I want to mention the Mayor's Outlook luncheon there.
Well, I was going to do it.
You're going to do it? Okay. Perfect.
Councillor Ledwell.
Thank you, Your Worship. You have reduced my list of items from 3 to 2, so thank you. But I do want to congratulate you on a fine performance last week. Certainly you're in fine form, and you always do represent us very well, so congratulations to you on that. I just want to make mention, of course, of the Bogdan family and pass on my condolences as well. On Marigold's passing, I have had the opportunity as a volunteer and in other capacities to work with Mike over the years, and I've gotten to know a bit of his family. Certainly she was a fine lady, and her son does an awful lot for the city of Mount Pearl, so my condolences to the friends and family of Marigold and Mike. The only other item I wanted to mention, of course, and we did have a presentation earlier about it, is the upcoming Frosty Festival. Of course, it's our 32nd festival, and as our chairperson Mike Mooney outlined, there's all kinds of things happening, 60 events, and that's just incredible. But I want to make mention of the volunteers, because as a former chairperson of the Frosty Festival, I well know the commitment that these volunteers, and hundreds of them, put into the organization of this event. It is quite literally the largest winter festival in eastern Canada, probably east of Quebec. And it's all due to the volunteers. So I just want to encourage everyone, be it council or the public, if you see anybody with those sweatshirts and vests that the gentleman had this evening, certainly stop by and say thank you, because these folks have been meeting since probably May or June to put this together, and some of them have been doing it ever since day one, the first festival. So just want to encourage everyone to thank the volunteers. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, very much. Just 2 items that I want to relate with Council's permission. I'm sending a letter of congratulations to the Venerable Reverend Dr. Bishop Jeff Peddle, who was just, I don't know if you used the term sworn in, He was installed as the Anglican Bishop for Eastern Newfoundland, and I was invited as the mayor to attend. They had a huge turnout, about 1,400 people there. He took great delight in telling me that night, though, when they did a lineup, you went through and met the lieutenant governor, you know, all the standard stuff. He said, I'm in Mount Pearl, and I'm not going anywhere. So I thought that was really wonderful. But, well, if you know him and his wife, Kathy, they're just the sweetest people on earth. And with your permission, I'm going to send him a congratulatory letter and tell him how proud we are that he's a Mount Pearler and he's staying here. That's good. Congratulations to the Chamber of Commerce. Councillor Stawes, you were stealing my thunder, but that's okay. Their Outlook dinner this year was probably the most heavily attended that they've had. And we had a... What? And it was the most colorful. And we had everything in the world. I wanted to make reference, though, that on the morning after that event, I had received a phone call from a visiting member of Parliament that Ryan Cleary and Jack Harris brought with them. He is the honourable member for Victoria, BC. His name is Murray Rankin, and he called to tell me that what impressed him the most at the luncheon was the little few comments that we actually made about our Citizen of the Year program. And he's wondering if we would be willing as a city to provide all of the information on that program to the mayor of Victoria, should he ask. And I said we would be honored to do that. We won't bring him down, I'll go up and see him. Will it get me out of the snow for a day? Anyway, I just thought you should know that, so there are good things happening in the community. With that, we are going to entertain a motion to adjourn. It is moved by Councillor Walsh. We stand adjourned. Thank you.